Sandra, welcome to another episode of Asexualized, my asexual life, the place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you and yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the great subscribe button below right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live like now, post a new video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you find the content useful, helpful, insightful in any way, shape or form, or you just want to give this channel some like love. I really, truly do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So, happy Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. If you didn't already know, Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month was launched after it had been founded by me in 2017. That's July 2017. And it's to celebrate our asexual diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. And I launched it at the time that I published the printed version of my Asexual Perspectives book. So today I'm going to be reading excerpts out of the book. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. Love you implicitly. And today we're going to be talking about, do asexuals want kids? And how is it possible for an asexual to have kids? So how can an asexual have kids? So let's discuss it. This is a very, very, very interesting topic with many different points of views. So this is very, very interesting. So this is Victoria's story, and I'm reading from the Asexual Perspectives book, which the link is in the description below if you want to grab your own copy. Would you like kids? And if so, how many? And how do you hope to conceive these? If you already have kids, did you know before you had them that you are asexual, and how did that impact your life? Victoria, I don't want to have children. If I ever do change my mind, unlikely I will adopt. Now, I knew at the age of 15 years old that I never ever wanted children of my own at 15. And the doctor's like, oh, you'll change your mind. And it really annoys me when people say that. They stereotype people because of a certain age. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, no, I know my own mind. I knew my mind when I was 15 years old, and I haven't changed my mind. You know, I still don't want children, right? So basically, I relate to this person. I worked out that if I'd wanted to have kids, I would have adopted, but that decision was also when I was 15. I thought, well, if I wanted kids, I would adopt. But then I'm like, no, I don't want that life. I don't want the lifestyle of being like a mother. It's not who I am. I'm such a big kid myself, and I have like a 21st mindset and live like a teenager on purpose, and it's my best life I've ever lived. Best life, throwing away the rule book, creating your own is the way you should be in life, and if society doesn't like it, well, you know what they can do? Stick it. Just be you, beautiful aces. Just be you. That's what I say. Right, so moving on to Zoe's story. Now, Zoe's is very interesting. It's quite long as well. Would you like kids? And if so, how many? And how do you hope to conceive these? If you already have kids, did you know before you had them that you are asexual? How did that impact your life? Zoe, even though I didn't know about asexuality at the time, I knew when I was 14 that I didn't want to marry a man or have children. I made the mistake of saying as much to my mother and had to endure the usual, you will one day. What was I saying? You're just a late bloomer. You'll meet the right person and change your mind. And everybody has children retorts, and this is what I mean, society needs to wake up to the fact that so many people are different. We're all individuals. We all have our own needs, likes, preferences, dislikes, and that is perfectly fine, and I don't like it when older people patronize younger people, because it's like you don't know your own mind. I knew my own mind from a teenager. I knew very well my own mind, and I still know my own mind to this day. If I wanted kids, I could have them physically, but I don't want them, Anyway, this person goes on. Zoe said that they knew they were didn't want kids at the age of 14. I am 54, so now they're 54, and never once changed my mind or regretted my decision. One thing I feel very strongly about is that if people have children, it should be because they really want them, not because they feel pressured by family, their spouse, friends, co-workers, society, for appearance's sake or whatever other reasons. I totally agree with that, like I didn't like my childhood because I was bullied a lot. It wasn't pleasant. And, you know, if I was given a child a home, you know, say I adopted one, I worked out that, you know, like adoption is nice because you can choose a child and it can feel special. And if I had adopted, it would have been someone at school age, primary school age, because I'm not into babies whatsoever, even though I get on well with babies and kids. You know, and I would, you know, they would be school age, so at least they will be able to go to school, you know, and I'd be able to have a life of my own. But I know you can't have a life of your own properly when you have children. You have to commit to them fully, you know. I'm an all or nothing girl. I don't do things by halves. If I was a mother, I would have to be full in the mother type of person. And I'm not going to do that because it's not what I want to do with my life. It's not my life mission. My life mission, as you know, is to get asexuality recognised as sexual orientation throughout the globe, so that no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. That's a big mission. Takes a lot of work. Takes a lot of stuff that I need to do for that, you know. And writing books that change people's lives is my huge passion. Huge passion, you know. And it's very important I fulfill these missions while I'm on planet Earth, you know. Some people are born and they want babies and they want to carry on the human race and they want to carry on their bloodline, and that's great for them, but not everyone feels the same way, and it's important to appreciate that, you know. So, you know, and I could have thought because I had a bad childhood, I want to give the child the childhood that I never had, right? But that is not why you should have children. You shouldn't have children to give them the childhood that you never had, because that's not the right reason to do it, right? And just because you wanted a certain type of childhood that you didn't get doesn't mean to say that child would be happy with the same type of childhood that you might have in mind. You know, you should never have children just because you're going to grow old one day and you need kids to, you know, that are older to look after you. That's another wrong reason. You should only have kids purely because you love them, and want to be a mother or father or parent, you know? That's why you should have kids, because you want to bring them up, because you really are into that, because you really wholeheartedly have all the foundations and right ideas, you know, for wanting to have them in your life for good. You know, some people are like, oh, well, after a certain age, they can fly the nest and that's it. No, it doesn't work like that. If you're a parent for life. You don't stop your responsibility. Yes, people should go and get a place of their own. I moved out of home when I was the day after I left college when I was 19, because I stayed on and did an extra year. So I done 3 years of college and I moved out. Probably in some ways it wasn't the best idea to do. In some ways it was, in some ways it wasn't, you know. But you know, never ever have children just because to make up for some shortfall in your life or some problem you had, you know, because that's not a reason to have kids. You should only have kids because you really love them and want them, not just to say I had a child because everyone else is having them, look at my baby. Do you know what I mean? That's not a good reason to have children. A good reason to have children is because you really love the kid, because you want to spend time with it, because you want it to grow up, you want to be there. But you know, you have to know that's a rocky road. You know, they're going to go through the teenager phase, they're going to go through lots of different stages in their life. They might not always see eye to eye with you. You know, they might not want the same type of life that you want for them. You know, you have to understand that it's a big ask. Unless you're prepared to put all your heart, mind, and soul into it, in my opinion, don't do it. You know, because I think a kid needs a lot of attention, you know, and they do, you know, and that's not, and even for growing up, they need a lot of attention, but especially between the ages of 0 and 7, that's when they're most influenced, you know. So it's very important that you're there for them loads in their very early years. Very important. Anyway, going back to Zoe's story, I really relate to this. Giving birth has always struck me as a completely unnatural thing. A female pelvis having to crack open and a vagina having to enlarge to so many times its size. It's torture to the soul as well as the body. This may be my asexuality speaking. I've always felt repulsed by anything that disturbs my vagina/genital area. My credo is leave me alone. And I have to say that, especially these days, you know, because I did have sex in the past. It's kind of like my body's mine. Just leave me alone. Do you know what I mean? I'm not interested in genital stuff like that, you know? And I don't think there's anything natural about giving birth at all. I am very pregnancy repulsed. I've been pregnancy repulsed since I can remember. But I was that pregnancy repulsed years ago. They took me 2.5 years to stop feeling sick every time I saw a pregnant woman come into my old job, because I used to work in the furniture department and the nursery just used to be right in front of me. Of course, I've got to, get staff for the nursery. I do have to speak to these people occasionally. I just used to see pregnant women all the time. To my mum, giving birth is the most natural thing in the world. To me, I'm the opposite. It's just the most unnatural thing. I've never felt like I want a child. I've never felt like I want that in my body. It's just be like an alien in there. I just don't want it ever. I'm really, really adverse to that. Personally for me, I can't stand the idea, the thought of it. When I had sex years ago, it was like I was so worried about getting pregnant all the time. Like, you can't relax so much when like, not that I was into sex anyway, but it makes it worse when for a fact you could get pregnant even if you're on contraception, because it doesn't always work. I got a friend who was on contraception at 17 years old. She got pregnant with her daughter, kept her baby. They're like best friends now, because their ages are very close to each other. There's not, well, obviously there's 17 years difference, but they're very, her as a mum are very young, and her daughter, they're more like sisters or best friends, probably more like sisters, I'd say, best friends, sisters, so it can happen. Mohammed Sheriff, hi there. Oh, hello, Mohammed. Lots of love to you. Thank you. I love the hearts. Thank you so much, sweetie. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. So yeah, so for me, there's nothing natural about having children, just like there isn't for Zoe. I haven't ever felt that way in my life. I don't ever want kids. It's not something I would ever want to do. And so, it's good to have different asexual perspectives, So this is a different one. Thanks for your welcoming. Oh, thank you, Mohammed. Yeah, I love the hearts. I love the hearts. Very nice name as well. So Marnie's story. Would you like kids? And if so, how many? And how do you hope to conceive these? If you already have kids, did you know before you had them that you are asexual? And how did that impact your life? I have 3. One of my own from a previous marriage and 2 stepchildren. I did not know I was asexual at the time, but now that I know, they know. I am always open and honest with my kids. Being asexual and knowing what it is, I would have had to tell the children. Being asexual and knowing what it is, I would have still had children. So she's basically saying, even though she knows that asexuality is a lack of sexual attraction, she would still have always had her kids, which is, really important, because some asexuals will have sex to have kids. Sometimes they'll just have sex just to conceive the kids, and then that's it. They don't have sex ever again in their life. I know asexuals like this have messaged me, So it's interesting that she has got kids, and she found out she was asexual after she had children. And that is quite common for a number of asexuals. They get into a marriage, they have kids, then they realise that they're not sexually attracted, they're not wanting sex, they're not needing it, they're not feeling that way. And and then it kind of like a lot of the time it causes friction in the relationship, as you can imagine, if they're married or with someone that's not asexual. And this is how they kind of find out about it. They kind of struggle and stumble and do some research into why they feel the way they do, trying to seek answers, and eventually some of them fortunately stumble upon asexuality, and they're like, haha, that's me, So you can get asexuals like me who've never had children, never want children, and then you find out you're asexual later in life. And then you can also get people like that. And obviously, the other person, Zoe, she found out she knew she didn't want kids at the age of 14, just like I knew at the age of 15 I didn't want children. So it doesn't matter what age you are, what matters is your own opinion, your own thoughts, beliefs, and you live your own life at the end of the day, whether you want kids or you don't. No one has the right to dictate to you who the best person is for you in life to be in a relationship with, or whether it's where you should have kids or not. It's a personal preference, that society shoves down our throats. Oh, you've got to have marriage, sex, marriage, and kids. It's like, no, you don't have to have that. You can live a different life, and if that's not normal, so be it. I'd rather be unnormal, abnormal. I've never been normal anyway. No, normal's very overrated, and nothing's ever normal. So yeah, Darcy's story. yes, Darcy. Would you like kids, and if so, how many, and how do you hope to conceive these? If you already have kids, did you know before you had them that you are asexual, and how did that impact your life? So we already know. Oh, Sam, lots of love. Nice to see you, my friend. I love the blue. The blue with the blue suit. It's very nice. So this is Darcy's story. I have never really been one to see children in my future. My partner has kids, so in a way, I now have kids, but I never had to think about conception for them. I have thought about artificial conception for another couple to adopt a child as a sort of donor. But other than that, I have really never thought about it. So that is one way you could do it. You know, you could have a partner that already has children. So like I said, there are some asexuals that find out that they're asexual after they've had children. And so therefore they've already got kids. Now, if you're an asexual that really loves kids, always wanted kids, but you don't want to conceive them yourself naturally, and you don't mind someone else having kids by someone else, then that is a great solution for you because you've already got kids there. Do you know what I mean? And they're somewhat, you know, like used to life already, you know? So I think it's very, very good. Obviously, you've got to be careful in that scenario because if you are new to that family, you've got to like get on with the person's, you know, the your partner, who would be the father, the mother, or the parent of that child, as well as getting on with the child yourself. So I think it's very, very important that you consider these things carefully, you know. Sam, I always wanted kids and once made an attempt artificially, but never worked and never tried again. Oh, bless you. You did tell me about that, but thank you for sharing on the channel, Sam. Yeah, I didn't realise till a little while ago that you'd always wanted kids. But yeah, they did say that, you know, they did think about thought about artificial conception or artificial insemination, as it's otherwise known. Or for another couple to adopt a child as a sort of donor. Mohammed Sharif, you're really interesting. I'm still here. Oh, thanks, Mohammed. Yeah. If you didn't, I don't know if you're new to asexuality or if you already found me through one of my asexual groups or something. But yeah, asexuality is a sexual orientation that's a lack of sexual attraction. So I don't know if I've known you before, if I've spoke to you before in a group or an app or anything. But yeah, so that's basically what it is. So because we don't experience sexual attraction, a lot of us don't want sex, and therefore a lot of us don't want children, which is quite different to the majority of society. Obviously, society is sex, marriage, kids, sex, marriage, kids, sex, marriage, kids. You know, it's kind of like a conveyor belt. Here you come, you pop out yourself, go along in life, have some sex like your parents did, have marriage, have kids, or in different order, and then it's like start the cycle over again. And this is like the life cycle, and it's like I do think there's a lot more to life than that, you know. And personally, I just, you know, I respect people who, you know, want kids of their own. I respect people who have kids that are asexual. I know some people in my asexual groups have kids and they absolutely adore their kids. And I think, you know, if they don't like sex, but they had sex and they got kids out of it who they adore, then I think obviously for them it was worth having the sex. Something good has come from sex which they didn't like, but you know, there's something good come out of the situation. That's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes we go through situations in life which aren't necessarily very nice for us or very pleasant at the time, or something we're not really into doing, but we can get something really good out of it. We can get a very, very good outcome. So, you know, for those asexuals that really aren't bothered about having sex, don't really want it or need it, but they, you know, they do have children, you know, they've got something good come out of it. And a lot of them would never, ever change that for the world. And I know some asexuals in my groups are very close to their kids. I mean, they're like best friends with their kids and they adore their kids, you know, and I think that's wonderful. Like I said earlier in this video, if you are going to be a parent, I believe you should be all in. You know, you should be all in with those children. You should love them, adore them. They should be like your bestest friend. They should be able to come to you and talk to you about anything and everything, you know. And I know there was someone in my group and their child was going through some difficulties at school, you know, and they were there for them. And they were even going, you know, I think they even did some parenting at home. You know, I'm not going to go into the details. It's private stuff, you know, in my groups. I will not share very specific details, you know, like that, because it's not right. but I do know that they, I think, believe in parenting them from home, and they were also, you know, very, very loving and very, very responsible for kids, and very, very wanting to know if their kid was all right. Sam, don't want to do the sexing to reproduce. Doubt I even could. Kids are awesome. I agree. You should be 100% invested in them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, because someone else said, you know, that don't have kids for any other reason. You really, really want them, and I think so many people have kids for the wrong reasons. It's like to just carry on a species, to, you know, to placate. Is placate the right word? To, you know, to basically enhance their ego. To, like I said, like I could have, you know, because I didn't like my childhood, I could have a kid and say, hey, I can give it the childhood that I never got, that I wished I could have. But that isn't a reason to have children. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, you know, if I was having kids, I'd be all in on that. You know, I'd have to do all the mother bit. It's something I don't want to do because I don't feel that way. Although I get on so well with kids. Kids automatically usually trust me. Like, instinctively trust me like nothing else you've ever seen. Like, I years ago, when I was kid and birth certificate age myself, there I was at a carnival at Teignmouth in the UK, and this kid, right, I was stood watching the carnival, and this kid who was younger than me, even though I was like a kid myself, they came and put their hand in mine, not even knowing that I wasn't a parent or anything, and this girl just put her hand in mine and was watching the carnival with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she trusts me, you know. And I've had kids years ago in supermarkets that got lost, and they'll feel safe with me. I had someone in my old job, a boy, who came with his parents. His parents were talking to me, and the boy trusted me. The boy came up and started talking to me and just automatically trusted me. And the parents are looking gone out. They're like, why is he gravitating towards her and trusting her? Because I'm very trustworthy with kids. You know, I get on really well actually with children because I'm on their level. I think like a kid a lot of the time on purpose. So my brain is very similar to theirs whenever I wish it to be, you know. And so usually we talk about movies that they like, because I like a lot of the same movies as them, you know. And I remember this one time there's a couple, and he was a doctor, and they were coming to buy bunk beds and bunk beds with like an adult mattress on for their children. And they were also looking at another bed for themselves and everything. It was a big order, and I was on the furniture department, but just the fitted bedroom bit behind the bed section. And while the guy was looking at, you know, like putting all the bed stuff through that they wanted all the order, I was keeping all the three kids entertained. And they were doing all these chicken noises and animal noises. It was really, really good. And I loved it. It was so fun. And actually, when I was 15 years old and I knew I didn't want children, my three top jobs for what I wanted to do was be a dog beautician, or look after children, or be a masseuse. That's what I used to want to do, in case you were wondering. And I did actually do a week's work experience as a dog beautician. That was very, very interesting, but very smelly, very hairy. And I didn't like the fact that, you know, it was obviously you can get some snappy dogs, but, you know, you had to do stuff like take wax out of their ear and pluck it out, but they didn't have any anesthetic or anything. You was like plucking it out with tweezers, and I didn't like hurting the dog like that. So that was really, you know, that was a bit, so I didn't like the job. But the actual dog, you know, the beautician, I was very hard work with the actual beautician dog bit was lovely. I really liked that. Sam, I've been a nanny and childminder before. I know you have. You'd be good as Nanny McPhee, I think. So, but a nice nanny, not a horrible. Mary Poppins. I think that's a better analogy. Mary Poppins, yeah, and a really nice nanny. I can see you doing that. You could do that for a job. It'd be really good. But I know you told me why you won't be able to do that as a job, but it's a shame because I think you'd be really good at it. And yeah, so that was so being a dog beautician was first, actually looking after children was the second, not having them on my own, but looking after them like other people. It's like, you know, like in a nursery or something. And third was being a masseuse, you know, massage. It's quite strange because my best friend who I saw, we've gone to Saturday now, so who I saw yesterday on Friday, I'm seeing her again today. I got to be up in a few hours, got to be up even earlier to see her today. My best friend Debs, my best non-asexual friend Debs, she is trained in massage and aromatherapy. So it's quite interesting, that, isn't it? You know? So it's kind of got Ray, who's the dog person. I've got Sam, who wants children. I've got my best female friend who's does massage. That kind of covers it, everything, but not me. But, you know, I don't want to do that anymore. Writing is my life purpose. I know that, you know, categorically. You know, writing, the media, helping asexuals, all that type of stuff. You know, public speaking, just doing courses, changing the world for the better. It's all good, you know, very important stuff. So I think it's interesting to see like the different types of asexuals want different things and what they feel, you know. I'm going to see if I can get any more about kids in here. Let me see if I can pick one more story out. Yes, Kenneth Williams. Would you like kids, and if so, how many? And how do you hope to conceive these? If you already have kids, did you know before you had them that you are asexual, and how did that impact your life? Currently, I view myself as too young and not financially fit to have a child, and I'm not sure if I do. I go back and forth on the issue, but overall, I think I would like a single child. It would have to be adopted or come into my life in a similar way, as I will never want to actually have a child. So I mentioned earlier that some asexuals are willing to have sex just for the kids. So I know some asexuals that literally have had sex just for the sake of having children. I know other asexuals that participate in sex, and it's not just to have kids, it's because they don't mind doing that, because they're sex positive or they don't mind somehow, you know. And then there are others that will not at all have sex naturally. They don't want it, they hate it, they couldn't ever have it like that, it repulses them, they don't like it, you know. So, and obviously if the asexuals don't want sex, if they're sex repulsed asexual, it would usually be common for them not to want children naturally, to adopt or have artificial insemination, have a surrogate, something like that, you know. So it's quite common. But yeah, some people are not sure, you know. And talking about single child, right? So I think it's quite unusual that, you know, this person says they want a single child. Now, I am a single only child, right? As an only child, it's a very, very difficult upbringing sometimes. It's a very different as well. So there are good things and bad things. Like the good things are, you know, you get to be very independent and very strong on your own, because you have to cope on your own no matter what. You've only got yourself. You've got no one else to go to apart from your parents. And if your parents are a different generation or don't understand you, really, you've only got yourself. So it can make you very strong and very tough in that way. But also, you know, it can make you kind of like feel alone, left out, lost, because, you know, if you're like, again, I said, you know, if your parents are older generation or don't understand you in some way, it can be like, you know, it can be very, very difficult, you know, and you don't, you know, automatically feel used to sharing. Like with me, I like sharing because I want to share, not because I'm told to share. That really annoys me if someone's like, oh, you should share that. It's like, no one should tell someone what to do. You should only be doing something freely, no matter whatever age you are. Do you know what I mean? Because love is supposed to be given freely, you know, friendship is supposed to be given freely, not with conditions on it. And, you know, in any type of relationship, no one wants to be told what to do. But yeah, it can be very difficult as an only child, because like, say like your parents, say your parents don't agree with something that you want or think, and it's 2 against 1, your parents against you in that way, so that they don't agree with something you want or something you do, and it's just you've got no siblings to back you up, no siblings to stick up for you, it's just you and your parents. Like, obviously it can be opposite way, one of your parents can agree with you, the other doesn't, and you get the situation where talk to your mum and talk to your dad. It's like, I don't know, speak to your mum, I don't know, speak to your dad. But I guess that people probably get that whether they're got siblings or not, you know. But it can be very lonely, isolated, you know, especially if I used to be very introverted years ago. I didn't have loads of friends. You know, I only used to have basically one friend at a time that usually didn't end up being my friend some, you know, later on. I've only ever had like two friends at once years ago, like who I thought were my friends. One in school and then one out of school, and then people that I didn't really class as close friends were more distant acquaintance friends. But you know, they didn't really have much to do with me. And so, you know, it's kind of hard because you are literally on your own. You know, you have to think for yourself, do things for yourself. You get very in your own head. Like, I've always been someone who's consciously aware of myself. I've been talking to myself in my brain for years. And I think as an only child, you do that more because you're not used to talking to people. I mean, if your parents are busy doing something or busy whatever they want to do, and you're upstairs in your bedroom all the time, it's kind of like, you know, you're not talking to anyone, you're talking to the dog or the wall or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it can be very isolated, it can be a very lone experience. But it can also be good, you know, like they've only got one lot of presents to buy in terms of child, you know, obviously got presents to buy for each other. So I did used to, majority of time, get quite a few presents. Christmas was nice. I always loved Christmas with my parents. Birthdays, the majority of times, were special as well. That's always been really good. So yeah. But I also think it's harder to relate to people. Like when you're an only child, especially with me, I didn't go to play school. I went just to school. So from the age of 0 to 4, nearly 5, I was completely just with my parents or on my own. I think my parents had a lodger as well, but I don't actually remember what he looked like. So yeah, I know they had a lodger. I don't know what age that was. I think it was before I was 6. And you know, it can get very, very lonely and isolated, and you just end up talking to yourself a lot, and you end up like having to amuse yourself. But you know, I learned, you know, like over the years, I'm definitely not a country girl. I'm definitely a city girl. I could never, ever, ever go back and live in the countryside. It's very isolating. You know, like if you got, so my parents used to watch a lot of TV. They still love watching TV, right? Which is their prerogative. You know, everyone's different. But when you're a child who's quite active, you want to play, you want to talk a lot, you know, because talking's very, very important to me. It's very important, you know. And when you're like on your own a lot of the time, it's just very like cut off and that, and you know, kind of having a lot of space around you in the countryside, and you feel cut off as it is. It's like, I don't want all this space. It just makes me feel more cut off, you know. And I realised the environment I grew up in, you know, it's one my parents loved and adored. They loved the countryside. They liked the peace and quiet, but it didn't suit me at all. I mean, you know, if I think back to the feeling, you know, it didn't suit me. The only thing that was good about it was, you know, there was things like swings. I like playing on the swings. I used to take the dog for a walk up the road quite a lot. We had always had dogs. So that was good fun. You know, there used to be a campsite nearby, so we used to go in the campsite and go and use their swings and stuff for free and things like that. So that used to be fun. I actually used to ride a bicycle back then, so that used to be quite good. But the loneliness and isolation and the strangeness I felt wasn't, you know, it's kind of like alien. It's a bit weird. It exacerbated my isolation feeling. It just made it compounded a lot of the time. You know, and the empty space kind of represented like loneliness. So it's like the empty space was like, you know, loneliness back. But even now, I'm not too keen on, I've never been keen on loads of space. I like things around me that are comfortable. You know, I like people around. You know, I don't have to be spending all my time with people, but I like people to be around me. You know, I like to know people are there. And you know, I do like getting out and about. You know, when I saw my friend Debbie yesterday, first time in months, it was just like, thank God there's some normality, and I can see my best friend and her other friend, which is my friend as well now. You know, it was just lovely. And I do have a lot of introverted tendencies, which may be because I'm used to being on my own as a child. You know, I got used to my own company. I didn't like my own company years ago, but now I do like my own company. But I do love myself and my own company. But there's a point where, you know, it's like, I need to get out of my flat. I want to get out now and do something. Do you know what I mean? Because I am an extrovert, but with introverted tendencies. So it's kind of hard because I'm very, very extroverted. 'Cause I pick up energy and vibrancy from other people, and I'm lively when I'm chatting and having time out. But I also like get on well on my own as well, like producing and creating things like books and writing courses and stuff like that. So I have like both sides to my character, but I think the city is definitely where I thrive. I never want to be out in the countryside again. And obviously, if you are looking, talking about being an only child again, if you're looking for a partner in the future, I think, if you have another partner who's also a single child, an only child, I think they can sometimes understand you better, because there is things that are different about an only child. It is harder, I think, to cope with life in some ways, but it does make you a lot stronger. Um, and I think it's good. But like, I'm open to people that got brothers and sisters, but obviously I've got to get on with the brothers or sisters. If I'm not used to having them of my own, it's always a worry, like, how am I going to get on with them or not? Now, the guy who I did lose my virginity to when I was 16, because I was pressured by him, I did actually get on very well with his sister and his mum and dad. I got on very well with the whole family. So that was kind of a shame, because after that relationship, I didn't used to get on that well with their my boyfriend's families. Really, after that relationship, I got on well with some of the other parents as well before that, but kind of like later on it was but my ex of 8.5 years, I got on okay with his mum. I used to go over there as well. So but I think when you're an only child, it does affect you differently. And so I think you've got to think carefully if you just want one. I think sometimes two's better, and sometimes I think one's better. Personally, I'm happy that I'm just one, because you kind of feel more unique and special in that way. But you have to understand that it can be a very lonely, rocky road at the same time. But there's only myself to blame, and myself have responsibility. But you can get blamed for stuff by your parents, for example, or told stuff, and you're like, but I can't defend against two people. I've got no brother or sister here. So at the end of the day, and I was quite feisty, and I do still stick up for myself. You do tend to have to stick up for yourself as an only child. It's kind of like you stick up for yourself, or you just walk away and be quiet. I'm kind of a sticker upper. But yeah, I absolutely love the city. And I think your environment does influence you a lot. Some people, they hate the city. They find the hustle and bustle just does their head in. It makes them feel very ill. Gives them a lot of pain. They just want to get away from it and escape. Whereas I'm kind of like, no, I don't need to be right in the city centre. I'm quite happy not to be right in the city centre. Where I live is down at the bottom of the city. Like, it's not in the central city. So I've got the best of everything, really. I live 5 minutes from the quayside, which is a beautiful piece of countryside in the city that I wouldn't want to be without, unless I move to London, because London is my like second home, which I do adore as well. But I really like living here. I think I made a beautiful decision living here, because I have got some countryside still. So if I want to go for a walk, and I can see swans and geese and ducks, and there's always people going around there. That's the thing I love about the quayside. It's not like I would go to the beach and there'd be no one there. There's actually always a few people around there, even if it's only like a dozen people coming by. There's people, and just walking their dogs or running. It's just really good. So I think, when you have a child, or you think about having a child, you've got to consider a lot of factors, not just yourself and how you're feeling about it. And I think, if you come across someone on a dating site and you definitely don't want kids, and they do, I think it's just no. I mean, I had a guy on ASAP the other day, and I told him, he knew what type of relationship I wanted, because he asked me basically and saw my profile. And then he said, oh yeah, I'm happy to live, separately as well, but I have some special things I want. I'm like, what's them? And he's like, oh, I wouldn't mind adopting a kid. And one is, most people that adopt children will want to live with the person that they would adopt with. Presumably they'd rather adopt with someone on their own, so the majority would rather live with the person to bring the kid up together. And two, he knew for well I don't want kids, because it says it in my profile. And he still kept talking to me for a bit. He goes, "Oh, it's not mandatory," but it's like if someone's already thinking about that, he was in his 20s. If someone's already thinking about that, it's like no go, you know. And I think that's what I'd say. Like I like younger guys, as you know, in their 20s, and some of them know exactly what they want. Like I said here earlier, like it shouldn't matter what age they are. You know, if they know their own mind, they need their own mind. I knew at 15 I didn't want kids, but some people haven't made their own mind up when they're in their 20s. You know, they're still not sure whether they want kids or not. Even late 20s, early 30s, they might not even know, you know? So if there's a case that they might want kids later on, you definitely categorically don't, then it's not going to be a suitable match. You know, it's best to move on to someone who, you know, wants the same thing possibly as you, rather than, you know, hanker after it, you know? So it's important that when you are looking to get into a relationship or date, that you consider, like, do you want children of your own? If so, how is that going to be possible as an asexual? Do you want to conceive them naturally? If you're sex repulsed, understandably quite a lot of asexuals are. How do you want that to happen? Do you want to adopt? I think adoption is a wonderful thing. I knew categorically that if I'd ever wanted children, I would definitely adopt. You know, I'd want the kid to feel special, like I'd chosen them. There's lots of kids that need good homes, lots of kids that calling out for the love and care that you can give them, you know. I think it's very, very important, you know. I would always have adopted, and I knew that about myself, you know. So I think adoption's a very good thing. And then the other thing is surrogate or something. But you have to understand that if you know you're surrogate and that relationship breaks down with them, that can cause a lot of pain and heartache for that child later on. And if the surrogate decides they've changed their mind and they want to keep the kid for themselves, sorry, you're not having it. That's heartbreak and pain for you. That's why personally, in my personal opinion, I think adoption's better, because you know you know that the kid really does need a good home. I mean, obviously there can always be complications of that, the birth parents that come back in to their life. There's always kind of like issues either way, you know. But if they've already kind of given them up, and you know, and some kids don't have parents anymore, one of them's passed away sadly and stuff, you know what I mean, something's happened. So there's a lot of kids that need good homes. So I think it's wise to think about that if you do want children. And these days, I think you can adopt kids on your own as well, not just with another parent, which is good news for children who need to be adopted, I think, you know. But, you know, it's good if you can have two people. But I think sometimes one can be sufficient depending on that one person. So asexuals, you know, have to decide for themselves whether they want kids or not. It shouldn't be assumed that just because you're asexual, you don't want children, because there seems to be this big stereotype myth that, oh, if you don't experience sexual attraction, you ultimately never want sex in your life, which is true for quite a number of asexuals, but not all. When I say not all, the majority don't want it, but some will have it. And you know, and then you've got to take it from there. So you've got to assess your own individual situation, the people that come into your life, and you've got to be thinking ahead, you know, and taking everything into account. And you know, the stereotype is, you know, no asexuals want sex, and you know, and they wouldn't want kids because that would mean sex, you know, which is not true, because some will have sex to have kids, but there's other ways of having kids besides sex, you know. It's very important. And then there's the other myth and stereotype, which is the opposite, that asexuals will never ever you know, they wouldn't. So there's like kind of two myths going on. One is that they wouldn't want kids because they wouldn't want to have the sex. And I was going to say there's another myth then. I'm sure this is the kind of the opposite way, where I can't remember. Mostly it's because they wouldn't want to have sex to get kids. But there's also, I think, a myth that you can't, like, if you're, for example, asexual, a lot of people don't believe you can even have a relationship. So it's like, how could you have kids if you're asexual? Because you don't want a relationship, do you, if you don't experience sexual attraction? And that's another myth, you know? Just because asexuals don't experience sexual attraction doesn't mean to say they can't be in loving, committed, healthy, happy relationships without sex, you know? So I think people should not assume that an asexual doesn't want sex at all in terms of every asexual, but I think they shouldn't assume they do want children as well. That's what I was going to say. So some people I tell I'm asexual, I lack sexual attraction, I don't want sex. Then later on they'll start talking to me about children. And it's like, clearly you haven't understood what I'm saying, because I said I don't want sex, and therefore I don't want to conceive kids, you know? Sam, I have people say that to me, but I very much want a relationship. Exactly, Sam. Exactly, you know? It's crazy. It's crazy that people put the importance of a relationship, and whether it's a relationship or not, just down to the fact of where you have sex and how much you have. I mean, that's not what makes a relationship. Like, people can have loads of sex and not love each other, and people can love each other and never have sex, you know? But it is annoying when I speak to some people and I explain what asexuality is, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm cool with that." Then it's in the next breath, it's like, "Oh yeah, but I want kids." And it's like, without thinking, it involves sex, because they're not really asexual. Well, they aren't asexual, openly not asexual, but they didn't even think about the fact that kids involve sex, and you don't want it because they don't take you seriously. So you've got the two myths like that. Like, one myth is you will never have sex, therefore you never want children. And the other myth is that, the other myth obviously is about, you've got to have sex in order to have a relationship, which is simply not true. And then the other thing that's going on is, the sexuals say they understand asexuality. I'm fine to have no sex, and the next minute they're asking about kids, which clearly, if they're a sexual person, would mean by natural means usually, and that's what they're talking about. It's like they completely ignored what I've said because they really want the sex, So anyway, decide for yourself what's right for you, I personally don't feel it's natural to have children, but I know I'm not the same as everyone else, and there are some asexuals that have had children think it is very natural despite being asexual, and they've got children, they love their kids. And I do have to say, every person in my asexual groups that really adore their kids, that really don't want their kids, that really love their kids, try and understand their kids, I really appreciate every single one of them, because I don't think you should have kids unless you're going to be that type of parent. Someone who's going to love and adore their child, someone who's going to nurture it, who's going to try and understand it, who's going to love and care about it for who it is, and they don't have to do something to prove themselves. They don't have to do something to get that love. The parents just automatically give it to the child because they are damn worth it, And if you've had a childhood where you felt like you weren't given that nourishment or attention or love, know now as an adult that you can get that love from within, and from friends as well, and from the environment. But it's got to come from within more than anything else in the world. You've got to love yourself, because there's only one of you, and you'll be with yourself forever, no matter whatever happens. So it's best to love yourself 24/7, 365 days a year, and be happy with you, no matter come what may. Whatever type of person you are, you've got to love you. It's the most important thing in the world, most important thing in the world. Anyway, I'm going to love you and leave you for now. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Sam, for being here in the stream. Lots of love to you. And Mohammed, thank you so much for being here. I absolutely appreciate both of you being here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that great big bell icon to get notified of every time I go live. Right now, I'll post a new video. I've got to have a few hours sleep before getting to see my best female friend again, which I'm really looking forward to. And I'm seeing my best friend Sam as well on Monday. So it's good. Very, very good. Anyway, night Sam, night everyone else. Lots of love. Take care and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Happy Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. And don't forget, you can get this book down below in the link in the description. Thanks, Sam. Take care. Bye, everyone. Bye. Racial quirky and each other's. Bye-bye.